Good afternoon, family, friends, especially the Lee family. Thank you, Scott, for reaching out and asking me to speak. At Captain Lee, I call him Captain Lee. That's who he was to me, Captain Lee. He was a battalion chief with the Waycross Fire Department. This afternoon, I just want to share a few stories with you and talk about what this man meant to me and how his legacy will live on for years to come through me and through you and through the family. To the Lee family, Captain Carlos Lee was a great man. He was a mentor of mine. I'm Freddie Howell. I was a young guy back in 1985, applied to be a firefighter, and I got an opportunity interview. And I walked into old Waycross Fire Department downtown to the chief's office. And there sat Chief Donald Kovacs, Captain J.L. Christmas, Captain M.L. Hickson, and Captain Carlos Lee. And they interviewed me and 6 or 7 other guys after we had went out and did our PT and all that and passed. And I got the job. Thank God. God has a reason for everything, and He put those men in my life to mentor me, to mold me, to make me who I am today. One of the first things that we did back then was on the first day of our job, we tried on our gear and all, and then Captain Lee and Rooney Cox and L.D. Cawley, Dan Hickox, we all got on the fire truck. We went out by, used to be an old bar there called Little Knights off of Knight Avenue, and we hooked up. They showed us how to hook up to a hydrant. They showed us how to pull a 2.5-inch line, and we pulled that line, and that 2.5-inch line, it's a pretty good sized line, and then they charged it, and they showed us how to hold the nozzle and spray water. And then they stood back and they kind of giggled, and we each one had to take our time, and we had to hold that line. It was heavy and hard. Water was pushing back on us, and you know, Captain Lee would just tell them up the pressure, and it would like almost lift us off the ground. And so once he seen how much we could hold, then he would tell them to cut it. So I got put on shift July 3rd, 1985. Me and Rusty Russell, one of the young firefighters, and being young, new on the job, we hadn't experienced, we got a little bit of training, but we hadn't experienced anything as a real house fire. So we got paged out, and we happened to be on Captain Lee's shift. We got paged out to a house fire over off of Pendergast Street. We respond over there, and they were smoke bowling out of the house, and fire coming from the back somewhere. We couldn't tell. We were young, and we put our gear on, put our mask on. Our mask was fogged up. We'd come off the truck. It was 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Me and Rusty pulled the line, and we were doing what Captain Lee told us to do. He said, pull the line, go to the front door, go in and put it out. So we went inside. I thought I was behind Rusty. Rusty was on the nozzle and I was backing him up, and I thought we were in the house real deep. And about that time I felt something tap me on the shoulder, and back then Captain Lee smoked. And he was leaned down, he said, boys, y'all go on in. It's in the second room on the right hand side. I turned back around and I said, Rusty, Captain said it's on the second room on the right-hand side. I thought we were way inside already. But we were right inside the front door, and Rusty said, "Do you want the nozzle?" I said, "No, but go on. Captain Lee said go." So we went in and put it out. And I tried to role model myself from that day on the fireground to be like Captain Carlos Lee. Because he never got excited. He never panicked. He always stayed cool and calm, collective on the fireground, even around the firehouse. Oh Lord, the stories I could tell, but today is not the time for some of them stories. From him and LD hunting to fishing, and I don't know if it was all legal or illegal. That's not for me to judge and say, but they were some funny stories. We played spades. Captain Carlos Lee taught me, Bernard Cooper. He didn't just teach us how to play spades. He taught us how to lose at spades. Him and LD whooped us every day at spades. Spades is a card game that you play. And I was young, I didn't want to play spades. And every day after lunch or after dinner, especially on the weekends after we did our chores around the station, I'd go sit out front, and sure enough, Captain Lee would come to the door and say, "Come on boy, let's go play some spades." And we'd go in and we'd sit there, and him and LD would put a whooping on us. I mean, put a whooping on us. And I don't know if they were cheating, but I always suspected they were, but we couldn't ever catch them. They were just sharp. But Bernard was my partner, and he always said we were going to whoop them, but no, we never whooped them. So one day I finally become an officer. I was a lieutenant, and I always wanted to be, I strived and I tried to be on Captain Lee's shift all the time. I liked the way he ran the shift. I liked his demeanor. I liked his professionalism. And I liked that he never hollered and screamed or got upset. And if he had a problem with you, he talked to you. And he treated you with respect. So I became a lieutenant out at Station 3. And we had a grass fire. I call it a brush fire, a woods fire, over off of Senate Street, off of Memorial Drive, right behind the old Hog and Bones. You go back in there, and it was me and a couple of firefighters, and we were fighting. I thought it was a big grass fire, and I was calling for Station 1 to come help, back up, help us. And Captain Lee pulled up, the old purple van that we had. He pulled up, got out. He said, "What you got?" I said, "Captain Lee, this fire is going to run. It's running all through this block. It's going to burn the whole block if we don't put it out." Well, there was no houses on the block. He said, "Well, why are you so upset? Why are you wanting Engine 1 out here?" I said, "Because we need some help. I mean, there's no way we can put all this out." He said, "You got a drip can on that truck?" I said, "Yes, sir." A drip can it held diesel fuel, and you could light the end of it, and you could actually start fires with it. He said, "Well, pull that hose and get that boy out of there." He said, "You and him grab that drip can, and y'all just walk around this block and set it all on fire." And I said, "Do what?" He said, "Yeah, set this block on fire and let's burn it off. That way we won't have to come back out here no more." So it took us about 2 or 3 hours, but we stayed out there, and we burnt the whole block off, which I had never done in my whole life. I thought firefighters were supposed to put fire out, not start fires. But he taught me something that day. He said, "Freddie, we come out here every year." He said, "And if we don't burn this whole block off, we'll come back out here before the end of the month or 2 months." So we burnt the whole block off. So I went, "Wow, that's pretty neat." but he was calm, cool, and collected. One of the funniest stories, I was standing there washing dishes one Sunday afternoon. Him and LD and all of them were carrying on in there, getting ready to play some spades. And about that time, a guy walked in the back door, or walked through the door into the kitchen, and he says, "Hey guys, there's a warehouse right across the street, right across the railroad tracks on fire." Well, from the kitchen window, I just kneeled down and looked, and I could see the warehouse he was talking about, and it was on fire. Fire was everywhere. It was an old fat lighter warehouse, and it was burning up. So we jumped in the truck. I was a driver at that time. We pulled out, went around, pulled up there, and Donald Marshall was my lieutenant. He pulled the line, him and Rooney, I think Rooney Cox was one of the firefighters, and I pulled up, part and jumped out, pulled all the levers for all the hose they had pulled, and we were fighting fire. And Captain Lee walked over there to me and he said, "You need to move that truck." I said, "Why?" He said, "There's a power line. You've parked right up under a power line." And I looked up and I said, "Sure enough, I have parked under the power line." So I jumped in the truck, shut the pump down. The old International we had, you could operate the pump. You had to turn the pump on and off in the truck, but you could also run the throttle up inside and all. So I shut the pump down, put it in gear, and started pulling up, and the power line popped and fell across the truck. And it fell right between the cab and the pump. And it was bzzz, going off out there, scaring the living death out of me. I'm like, "Oh Lord." So I always been heard and told that if a power line falls across a vehicle, don't get out of the vehicle because it'll shock you if you're touching the vehicle. So I put the pump back in service and I ran the throttle up to about where the RPM is normally supposed to be. And I'm sitting there in the truck and I looked out to the side and there Captain Lee was standing there and he's going, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm sitting in the truck. That power line's across the truck. I'm not getting out." He said, "Yeah, you can get out. Just jump. Don't touch the truck, just jump." I said, "No, I ain't getting out." He started laughing and shook his head and walked off. And I gave it a little while until the power line stopped frying over there, and I did what he said. I opened the door and I jumped out of the truck, and sure enough, I was okay, and the pump was okay, and the truck was okay, and the power had, I reckon it threw a breaker up there somewhere, but he knew that and taught me another lesson there. Captain Lee, I can't, there's so many stories. I'll tell you one more, actually two more, and I'll try to end it because I could go on and on about the stories from Captain Carlos Lee, Battalion Chief Lee, when he left. But one day we had a call and I was a lieutenant again under him on his shift, and it was out Brunel Street. And it was in the 1600 block, something like that. And the city limits stopped at like the 1400 block. And I said, "Oh, that's in the county. We're not supposed to respond out in the county." Captain Lee was in the kitchen. I run in the kitchen. I said, Captain, that call's is in the county. That's not in the city." He said, "Boy, get on that truck and go." I said, "Yes, sir." So we went, me and the crew jumped on the truck, we took off, and we got to that call, and it was a house fire. We worked with the county and put it out. When we got back to the station, he said, "Come here." So I went in there to see him, and he says, "Let me tell you something." He said, "Anytime a call goes out like that," he says, "go. Don't ask." He says, "It's always better to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission when it comes to a call like that." So from then on, anytime we had a call, whether it was in the city or county or Nebraska, I didn't care where it was at. If I was on his shift and under him, I went and didn't ask because I was asking for permission. He had a brother who is also a mentor. Carlos loved his family. He loved his job. He loved us. He took care of us on the job. His brother Kelly Lee used to come by. He was worked at I can't remember what the name of that, some computer place, but Kelly would come up. Carlos was always proud of him, talked about him. And he'd bring him around all the stations, and I happened to be at station 3. And Kelly come up and come by, and I'll never forget, he'd always have coin tricks and different things that he would bring around, and he'd show me coin tricks and all, and he was like Carlos. He is like Carlos. He was a likable guy. And I formed a bond with him. Just him coming by. And one weekend he was teaching a local clown class how to put on makeup. Well, on Saturday of every week we had to take all the equipment off the fire trucks, and we had to clean all the compartments. We had to put the stuff back on. As Captain Lee come to me and says, "Hey, Kelly's going to be teaching a clown alley how to put on makeup over here. Would you be interested in going?" I said, "When is it?" He said, "Saturday morning." I said, "We working on duty?" "Yes, well, I would be interested in going, because that would get me out of taking all that stuff off the fire truck, cleaning the compartments, putting it all back on." So I went. And I fell in love with clowning. So I went down to the Florida Fire Academy under Kelly Lee, and I took a clown class. And then I got Kello the clown to come up to Georgia, and we taught several classes, firefighters, how to become clowns. And that's helped me a lot, and it's saved a lot of kids and taught a lot of kids about fire safety through clowning. None of this would have happened. I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for Carlos Lee. If it wasn't for God putting me in the right place with the right men. There's not very many of those men left now. When I walked in the door in 1985 in Waycross Fire Department, I was a little young whippersnapper, and most of those guys were old enough to be my dad. And they became role models for me. They became mentors. And they helped make and shape me into who I am. And for the Lee family, Scott, the kids, the sons, the grandkids, they've helped make you who you are today too. And we may be saying goodbye to Captain Carlos Lee today. But when I look in the mirror, and when you look in the mirror, his legacy lives on forever. Thank you. My heart goes out to you. I'm praying for you and your family, friends, and may God bless. Thank you.